starting to record. So obviously, welcome to the college.
Cheers.
So here with me is obviously myself, James, and Nathan. And yeah, let's get it started.
Cool.
Had to get the questions. So
Yeah.
can I have that as well, please? Thank you. So obviously that you're a poet. It's not just a poet that you do, isn't it? Because you're like with my research that I found, like you're like a filmmaker as well on a website, like a songwriter, a singer, and etc.
Yeah, I don't make the films myself. I leave that to the experts.
Yeah.
But I like using all kinds of different media, not just with poetry, but with music as well. I actually got into poetry and writing poetry through music because I was first, I don't know, I've got my first pay packet. I was an apprentice at a car factory called MG Rover, which closed 13 years ago. My first pay packet, I came into Birmingham, bought an electric guitar and a fuzz box. Right, I had no idea how to play, but I just wanted to play because I loved bands like Motorhead and all the heavy rock, Iron Maiden stuff, all that. I loved all that stuff. And I just went out and bought a guitar and taught myself a handful of chords, and then I just found I had a knack for writing lyrics. I didn't particularly excel in English. I got a grade C O level, which would be equivalent to a C in a GCSE, I suppose now, yeah. So I'm not, some academic of English literature or anything like that. I just found out a knack for writing, and I enjoyed it. So I just did it. And then after years and years of playing in bands, loads of different bands, I got into a poet called, several poets actually. One guy called John Cooper Clarke, who's an old punk poet. Another guy called Attila the Stockbroker, who's another old punk poet. And a guy called John Hegley, who's not so much a punk poet, but very clever wordsmith. And I was listening to these guys, and I just started writing a bit. And it all stemmed from there. Yeah, so music, poetry. I've written musicals as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, quite good. So, as you've done a lot of different poems, such as you've done you've done a few spoken words. I think one of them was called My Heritage. Yeah, I've seen that a few days ago. It's quite good. But how old would you say when you started to write poems?
Right, I remember one poem. I don't remember the poem, but I remember writing it when I was in junior 2, what would that have been? Year 4, right? I remember it because back in the day at junior school, you had, the class would go off to the swimming baths and do their swimming. The one time I forgot my swimming kit. So I had to stay at school with all the other naughty kids that had forgotten their swimming kit. I think there was about 3 or 4 of us. And basically the headmaster would come in and sit in the class with us and babysit us while everyone else went off to swim. And he had a bit of work to do. So he says, look guys, what we're going to do, I'm going to put this piece of music on. I want you to listen to it and write whatever comes into your heads. And I went, okay. And the piece of music was The Planets by Gustav Holst, classical piece, I don't know if you know it. Very famous classical suite of music. And he put on this, and there's like Mars and Mercury. And there's this one, Venus, the music for Venus came on. And I went off on one and wrote all this rhymey, lovey-dovey nonsense, which was weird for a kid of like 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old, or whatever. Anyway, I wrote it all. I give it to him, and he looked at it and he went, "Did you write this?" And I went, and I thought I was in trouble. I went, "Yeah." He said, "Really? You've not like copied it from somewhere else or remembered it from somewhere else and you've written it?" "No." you know, bottom lip started going. I thought I was in trouble. He went, "This is brilliant." He says, "Can you write it out in your best handwriting? I want to put a copy on my wall in the office." And I just went, yeah, okay. So that was the first recollection, really, of writing a poem. I was, like I say, in junior 2, it was different, which was equivalent to year 4, which was, yeah, so I just found out a knack for words, really. But it's not.
Enjoyed writing it as well.
I did enjoy writing it, just on the spur of the moment, and I'm one of these people, I won't really go back to a piece much to change it much. I'll go back and reread, and I might change the odd word or odd line, but I won't. There's a lot of people will write a load of stuff and then go, "Nah, it's rubbish," and throw it away. I'm going, what a waste. No. You know, so I kind of, all the poems in there, apart from one, really, were kind of written in one hit, more or less. The majority of them were written in one hit, and then I'd go back and add little bits. There's one poem in there, which is the longest poem I've ever written, called "Letter to Birmingham," and the track on the CD there is just shy of 9 minutes. But the whole spoken word piece on its own is about 7.5 minutes. But then once the musician got hold of it and put a stunning piece of music that's gone with it, so it made it up to about 9 minutes. So yeah, it varies a lot.
How long does it take you to write a spoken word piece?
Again, varies. Sometimes it's like anything, you'll sit down, you'll have it done in 10-15 minutes sometimes, and then other times you write for about half hour and you go, "Oh, I'll just put that down, it's not quite there," and then you pick it up again, you do another little bit and then another bit, so it could take, you know, a couple of 3 days sometimes to get the majority of something. But normally I'll sit down, and if I'm in the zone, I'll write for an hour, easy.
Is that just on one piece or various different ones?
Yeah. But it's like anything. Once you're in the zone, boom, you're off on one. You do it. It's like, I don't know, your music students. Yeah, once you get there with, you know, writing a piece of music, and if you're in the zone, you just keep going. There's another top band right there, Nirvana, fantastic.
Like, you know, when you're writing, do you think stuff has to like rhyme for it to work?
No, not necessarily. Although most of my stuff has a rhyming structure of some kind, only because I think that's my personal preference. There's some brilliant pieces of work out there, marvellous pieces of work that have no particular rhyming structure. I'm still trying to embrace something called prose, which is very loose and doesn't really have any discernible structure. There's a lot of American poets are into prose, and it's not quite my bag, but you know, I'll have a go. I never discount anything, you know, never discount anything. But when I start writing, I always end up using rhythm and rhyme of various descriptions, because I think it's probably because I've come from a music background and the rhythmical nature of music that I do that. Because I think sometimes there's a very blurred line between prose and storytelling. Yeah. You know, that's I'm kind of a little bit old school, I suppose. I like to go like, that's poetry.
Yeah. So does it just come to you then? Just the rhyming?
You have to work on it. I mean, I cheat like nobody's business. I use online rhyming dictionaries. An online thesaurus is. I find a thesaurus is more useful than a rhyming dictionary. Because I think sometimes you know what you want to say, and you're just looking for the word. If you go to a rhyming dictionary, it might change what you're trying to say. So if you know what you want to say, I always say to students when I'm doing workshops, first things first, the most important thing is say what you want to say, get across what you want to get across. If you want to make it rhyme afterwards, then you might have to go back and change a little bit of it. but always say what you want to say. That's the important thing. Prose writers will just do it, yeah, and they'll say what they want to say, and I'll hold it up here in my head for a little bit and play with the words, and I love wordplay. And sometimes they'll come like that, and other times, you know, you'll be looking at it for ages and nothing will come, and then bang, there it goes. I mean, one of my all-time fave bits of wordplay in that very poem, actually, about my parents and my heritage, it says something about warts, not warts and all, I can't remember the line now, I'll have to find it, it's doing me head in. It's right here. Here we go. Stalwarts and all. So to pay homage to two stalwarts and all. So we always, like, I don't know if you know the saying, oh yeah, you're great, warts and all. I don't know if you know about that. So like when people say, right, you know, irrespective of what you look like, and irrespective of your imperfections, you're a good person. So it's like warts, like, you know, skin warts and all. So people go, oh yeah, that bloke's great, he's great, you know, warts and all, for all his imperfections and all that, warts and all, good person. But of course there's a word called a stalwart, someone who's strong and resilient, which my parents were. So you just mix the two, stalwarts and all. And I just thought, yeah, I like that. I like messing around with that. I'll have that. And don't get me wrong, I nick stuff as well. You know, some people call it plagiarism. I call it research. You know, now it's obviously okay. It's a thin line between plagiarism and being influenced by something.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, make sure don't copy stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
But you know,
you just research it.
Sorry.
You just research it. You don't copy it.
I don't copy it though. I just research it.
Yeah. Okay then. So, coming back to your point where it's like. You said sometimes it tends to take 3 days to make a poem.
Mm-hmm.
What inspires you to make a certain poem? Like, what inspired you to make that my heritage?
My heritage, yeah. That really was. It all stemmed, weirdly enough, from. Like before I had this Mohican haircut, I just used to have sort of like spiky sort of hair. I might find an old picture, and people used to say I look like Joe Pasquale, which I do. I don't know if you know Joe Pasquale. Yeah. I've got a picture in an older book, you know, that's me before the Mohican, but there's one here, a spitting image of Joe Pasquale. You know, that's me, basically. And everyone goes, you look like Joe Pasquale. And I kind of went, okay, well, Joe Pasquale, Italian heritage. I think his granddad was Italian or something, because Pasquale is an Italian name, and I dare say his name isn't Joe. I wager it's Giuseppe, which is Italian for Joe. So you know, we've shared a few like Anglo-Italian things, and I was determined to write a bit of a poem about, you know, look, I know I look like Joe Pasquale, but I'm not Joe Pasquale, all right. And that then just sparked off the whole. Well, we have similar heritage. Italian, and I just thought the journey that my mum and dad had gone on, and what would have happened if they'd have decided not to come over. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because I go over to Italy quite a lot. I've got a lot of cousins, second cousins and whatnot over in Italy, and they're hard lives, man, hard lives in the south of Italy. And I'm just thinking, I mean, there's two of my cousins who died at about my age, some of them younger, because the lifestyle there is like, people talk about Mediterranean diets. Well, they are just like, you know, smoking, drinking, big guys, and they both died of heart attacks.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm kind of thinking, you know, that could have been me, quite easily. So and I'm kind of grateful. And then I went on the whole immigration kind of thing as well, because I get sick to death of hearing UKippers yamping on about bloody immigrants, this, bleeding. There's one poem in there because I went to the refugee camp in Calais before the French police smashed it to bits. I was out there just helping out and giving out food parcels and clothes and whatnot. And you know, I just hear it so many times. Bloody immigrants coming over here. And you know what? My dad said it once. We were watching the news, and my dad went, "Oh, look at all of these immigrants. They come over here. They take the jobs." And I'm going, "What, like you did, Dad?" He goes, No. The Queen, she asked me to come. You know, yeah, right, okay. But then that's a generational side of things.
Yeah.
So I then started thinking about the whole aspect of immigration and movement of people, and how I just, you know, I think that's great. Long may it continue. You know, I'd love to see, like, get rid of borders completely, and have just one planet that you can just move freely around and go where you want. You know, I know it's a little bit utopia, but you know, for me. So then it started to turn into not just a homage to me parents, but then a notion of migration and immigration as well. So yeah, sometimes these pieces evolve into something that you hadn't thought about, and if it comes to you, go with it. That's what I say, just go with it.
So, if you had like something particularly to write about, like you was given the task of like writing about a certain thing,
Yeah.
how would you like, go about that? Because that's what we're kind of struggling on, because we've been given like the thing cake or death, and we've got to write something along them lines. So how would you like go?
What you got? Cake
or death?
Cake or death.
Yeah.
That's our
Cake
theme.
or death is the theme.
Yeah.
Right.
Weird theme, but
No,
it's like
cake
what,
or death. Well,
So that's like
death's right. So what I generally do, I'll have a little sit right straight away. You mentioning that to me, well, instantly it's got to be cake in it, because death is finite. That's game over. Is death. Okay, too much cake might lead to death, but I'm willing to take that chance, kind of a thing. So straight away, cake or death. Because you've been given an option, you go for the good option, cake, yeah. And then, you know, you can write off the death bit. And yeah, you might, because that's the theme, you might talk about that and talk about how cake might result in death. But ultimately, you've got to go for cake, ain't you? Now, I would generally, again, another thing that sometimes I do, I'll just do a thing called a free write. It's kind of like a slightly structured brainstorm, yeah. Whereby I just get a page and say, right, 10 minutes, I'm going to give myself 10 minutes and I'm going to write that title, Cake or Death, and then just go and don't even think about really what you're writing. Just keep writing. And if you get a little bit stuck, just pause, and then you might have to come back on track. But what you'll find, sometimes you'll go off subject, but it's all come from that original starting point.
Yeah.
These things are called free writes. Like I say, a slightly structured brainstorm almost. It's just like a stream of consciousness. Sometimes I'll just sit and write a load of bullet points and think, oh, I might bring that in. And then I might start thinking about rhymes, because death, breath, it's associated. So, yeah. And then think of like types of cakes, like carrot cake, lemon drizzle, muffins. And you could have a bit of fun with muffin as well, couldn't you? It's like, you know, slightly rude. But so you could have like loads of double entendres. Do you know what I mean by a double entendre?
Kind of.
Right, okay. A double entendre is, right, if a guy walks in here with a, I don't know, a melon, right, a very big melon, you go, oh, that's a big one. Right, okay.
Yeah.
It's very childish humour. It's a double entendre. It means, oh yeah, we're referring to the melon, but if nobody's looking and telling you, going, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, he's got a big one, has he? Oh, right. I don't know if you've ever seen Carry On films.
Yeah, that's all cool.
Carry On films are probably one of my favourite genres. That what they call Ealing comedies, just joking and silliness. They're full of double entendres. Double entendre, it's French for listen twice.
Yeah.
Listen twice, so you have to go, or look twice, kind of a thing. Yeah.
okay. Who did you pass with again? Just on low power mode.
Yeah.
Sorry, one second.
So do you guys play as well? Do you,
No, I'm not that talented.
I play though.
what'd you play?
I play a keyboard, the Indian drum, a
Cool.
doll.
What?
The
A doll drum,
doll,
okay,
yeah,
not
yeah.
tabla.
I used to play that as well.
Yeah,
And I used to play keyboard. I used to play a little bit of a guitar as well.
cool.
Yeah, that's it really. I
See,
play.
I always wanted to have a little dabble on a sitar.
Sit down.
I mean, I play guitar, but I always wanted to have a little dabble. 'Cause you have to sit a certain way, then you and rest it, and
Mm.
oh,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
play a little bit of drums, but not so much now. I've done lessons in school, but
yeah,
I'm not fell out of it. I still go on it when I get a chance, but
yeah,
doing more production side, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't get to play as much.
Okay, so many other poets don't really agree with adding music onto their
Mhm.
poems.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, like, do you agree with them, or are you open to doing music with your poems?
I'm very open to doing music with my poems. Yeah, you get a lot of in any art form. You'll get a lot of what I call purists. Yeah, they'll go, "This is spoken word. You know, do what it says on the tin. Spoken word. We don't need music." Well, okay, I'll go along with that to some extent.
Yeah.
But I not only write for myself, I write for other people. And if a little bit of music in the background is going to open up my genre to people a little more, make it a little more palatable, then what's wrong with that? I mean, when I perform my poems, I don't have music because it's too tricky to try and get music, and reading along to a piece of music in a structured way is quite tricky. If you've got a bit of music going on in the background, just read over it, then that's obviously a lot easier. But you'll find with the poems in there, all of those poems were written with the intention of not having music. But I decided to offer it up to musicians and go, do what you want with it. Do what you want with it. And they've turned them into something else. Yeah. Yes, they're still poems, and they're set to music. And sometimes, like my son always says, he says, well, first and foremost, it's about the words. No, I totally agree. Totally agree. First and foremost, it's about the words. But if the music can complement it in some way, then let it happen. I never say never. You know, I might have recorded all of these and listened to them and gone, you know what, much better off without the music. And you just have to use your ear and your own preference. Yeah, don't ever let anyone tell you what you should and shouldn't listen to. If you like it, then you like it. You will always get arts fascists who will go, that's shit. Sorry, am I alright to say shit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always someone who'll go, that's shit. And you'll go, no, in your opinion, that's shit.
Yeah.
Like, I can't bloody listen to Justin Bieber, but I acknowledge he's got a massive, massive fan base. And there's one thing, was it the Love Yourself thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. Just a voice and a guitar. Get out of here. Ed Sheeran is a blimming legend, but he writes a bit of commercial crap as well. But I saw him at the Hare and Hounds in King's Heath
Yeah.
before he rocketed to stardom, and he wasn't even top of the bill. There was a poet called Scroobius Pip.
Oh,
Yeah, who was
I've
top of
taken
the bill.
Scroobius Pip. Thou shalt not. Do you remember that?
Yes, thou shalt not.
Or
Yeah.
thou shalt. Thou
Yeah,
shalt.
yeah.
Have I showed it? You watched it. I made you watch it.
So, yeah.
Yeah, thou shalt not is brilliant actually. That's
Awesome.
probably his main famous piece, and he goes on about thou shalt not display bands as a brand on
Yeah.
your T-shirt
Yeah.
exactly as I have.
Yeah.
But, you
Nirvana,
know.
just a band. The Beatles, just a band.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but
The other one is thou shalt not make repetitive dance music. Thou shalt not make repetitive dance music. Thou shalt not make repetitive dance music.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't do it. Awesome.
but yeah, totally. it's whatever works for you. Don't ever let anyone say that's crap. I mean, you know, there's so much out there for everyone. I just can't abide people that go, that's shit. I mean, the classic one, you know, the Commonwealth Games closing ceremony recently. I don't know if you saw that. There's a poet called Amira Saleh who was, she did a poem about Birmingham. She's of Yemeni extraction. Her parents are from Yemen, but she's lived in. She was born in Birmingham and whatnot. She's proper Brummie, and she's proper street, man. I mean, for a Muslim girl, she's as cool as fuck. I mean, she's got this headscarf that she wears a trilby hat over the not a sort of a hijab type headscarf. It's just she puts her hair in a scarf, puts a trilby. She's got like baggy jeans, braces. You know, she's as cool as anything. She's just great. She did this poem about Birmingham, and because she's a little bit urban, she's 23, I think, and she, you know, talks a bit like that kind of thing, you know, which is not. And yet some Brummies get really upset about that.
Yeah.
And I do a little bit as well sometimes. Go, look, but when she talks, there's no real Brummie accent when she talks, because she's quite urban anyway. And I go, well, she's being true to herself. She's not putting on a voice. I hate it when people put on a poet voice. Yeah. Just speak. Use your own voice. But you always get haters. And she was on TV. You know, millions of people saw this. There's people on my Facebook, friends and whatnot, going, what a load of rubbish, I didn't understand a word of that. Why didn't they get a proper Brummie? And then straight away the red mist comes up with me. What do you mean proper Brummie? What's a proper Brummie? She was born in Birmingham, that makes her a proper Brummie. But she don't sound like, fuck off. You fascists. And these people generally, again, this is just a gross generalisation, these people are usually over 40, probably over 50. These were folk musicians. Like, don't get me wrong, I can't abide folk music. Hey nonny nonny and a hey nonny no. Get stuff with that. But some folk music, Dave will tell you about it, I'm trying to remember his name. It's not really folk, it's more acoustic based stuff. But some of it's brilliant. So, you know, never judge anyone or anything on an example of one. You know, get a bigger sample size. You know, and people like Ed Sheeran, I totally admire, and I don't recognise some of the songs he just knocks out to make a shitload of money. And yeah, it'll pay for a few more tattoos.
Yeah.
If he's got any clear skin left, frightening. But yeah. Sorry, I can't even remember what the question was. I went off on one again there. I do that a lot.
Do you agree with making putting music?
Oh, yeah.
Putting music, oh yeah. If it works for you, do it.
What style of music do you think's best? For spoken
Anything.
word?
You'll hear loads of different styles there. I mean, see, my son plays drums in a math rock outfit. There's only two of them. And it's intense, mad sort of stuff. And sometimes, you're familiar with a band called Slipknot?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, you can't really say that Corey Taylor sings much. It's like, he shouts and screams it.
Yeah.
You look at the lyrics and you go, you know what? Actually, this is really articulate and really, it's talking about essentially what the hip hop artists of the 80s did. You know, how society is crumbling, but they're a little more extreme in it. They've got a song called People Equal Shit, you know, and he's just talking about people who are brainwashed and just don't even acknowledge anything without their own, outside of their own bubbles and whatnot. And you look at this, and this is like aggressive. You take the music away, and he could actually recite that, right? Pretty much in the way that he does it with Slipknot. And you go, you know what? That's quite poetic. And then you stick this intense music. I mean, it is intense, Slipknot. And it takes on another life, another form. Great. You know. So, I would say there's no particular style of music I would say works best, but you have to remember, with a poem, you need to hear the words, and if your music is flooding that, then you're doing it wrong. You know, then the music takes over from the lyrics, and then you've got something else. Not to say it's a bad thing, but you've got something else. It's no longer really a poetic experience, if you like, because it's just too intense. But it can be, your poetry can be intense, but you have to hear the words. And if the music floods the words, then you're starting to lose out a little bit, I'd say. That's just my opinion. I mean, some of these, you know, these grindcore, you know, these growls, Napalm Death, yeah, who were from Birmingham. I don't know if you've heard of Napalm Death, yeah. They were the instigators of death metal, really. Black Sabbath were the instigators of heavy metal, and then Napalm Death came along and just took it off the scale, you know, big time. And you can't make out what's being said, because the singer grabs the mic, cups the mic and goes, and going, and he said what? But it works in that genre of music. You don't really need to hear the words. And then you read the words, and I just then go, what a bloody shame that we couldn't hear those words.
Yeah.
Because they're really good. But that's the genre of music.
Yeah.
You know, there's another band called Opeth, who are like a prog death metal thing. The music's phenomenal, and this guy just growls, and you can't make out what's being said. But they're using the voice as an instrument, not as a platform for lyrics. And then I then go, well, why write lyrics when you can't hear them? Just cool, if you want to growl, but don't say that's what I'm saying, because there's no discernible way. But then there's probably a counter argument where they'll go, well, the syllables of the words and the sounds of the words make me growl in a certain way, and I'll go, yeah, I can't argue with that, but it's lost on me. That's just my own limitations, really.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were like, if you would put music to it, would you have the music first and then write the poem around that and perform it around that, or have the poem, read it, and then put the music to it that way?
With these, I wrote the poems first and put music to the poems. I would probably always do that.
Yeah.
Write lyrics first. There's a lot of, like Elton John, for example, he will get the lyrics off Bernie Taupin first, and he'll look at the lyrics and go, right, I'll play this music. So he works lyrics first. I don't know, Paul McCartney, I think, does a bit of both. It varies. I find it easier to write songs when the music's there first, but I'll write poems without being limited by the structure of the music. Again, from a poetry point of view, if you're going to call it poetry, then the words have to be the main focus, really, I would say. So starting with the poem, and then as you read it, you start to not so much find rhythms, but there may be rhythms within it. I mean, there's a brilliant musician, very ambient, weird experiment, Aphex Twin. Don't know if you've heard of Aphex Twin. Right? Aphex Twin is just a bloke from Cornwall, and he plays just all sorts, sometimes real weird ambient stuff, sometimes full on drum and bass, hip hop, sometimes just classical piano on its own. And I think that variation's great. So I don't know, whatever works for you. I personally always start with the words. I always start with the words.
Do you reckon that's because the lyrics inspire the music?
I think so. Yeah. Although sometimes the lyrics will inspire the music, but sometimes I think it's great to have, do you know what I mean by juxtaposition?
Yeah.
So you'll have something that you're expecting aggressive music to, and it's not. So you got this like, well, I mean, we've got one of the most marvellous architectural juxtapositions in the world, as far as I'm concerned, right here in Birmingham. You know, St Martin's Church. You know, Selfridges.
Yeah,
building.
yeah.
Yeah, the big silver domed bum cheeks, as I like to call it. You know, the old-fashioned church,
Is
right
it
by
by
the
the
markets.
markets? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I know what that is.
Boom. It's like you would never, in a month of Sundays, consider putting those two types of architecture right next to each other. You got a really old, I don't know when the church was built, but old Gothic style architecture, church-like, and then this shiny thing right next to it. I love shit like that. It's like, I mean, there was where was it? I just love seeing what people perceive as different and that you can't mix. I love seeing mixed together. As simple as there's a mosque and a church on the Coventry Road, slap bang next to each other, and I'm going, you know what? That's ace. That's ace. And the more of it we have, the better. But anyway, it's just me.
Okay, that's quite good, quite good. Also, coming back to your views on like immigration and parties and all that stuff, because a few days ago I was doing a bit of research about you, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it says that you've joined the Green Party.
I was a member of the Green Party. I've actually jacked it in now, but I actually stood in 2 general elections for the Green Party in Bromsgrove. Now, Bromsgrove, I don't know if you know, I was actually born in the constituency of Bromsgrove in a place called Rubery, centre of the known universe, B45 massive. And anyway, so I was born in Rubery within the Bromsgrove constituency. Now, Bromsgrove is a Tory stronghold. You could put, as I was quoted on the Victoria Derbyshire show the one day, you can stick a blue rosette on a donkey in Bromsgrove and they'll still vote for it. They are blinkered Tories. Yeah, they will not accept anything else apart from conservatism. And the MP for Bromsgrove is a guy called Sajid Javid. Now, Sajid is vile, although he will never let you know that, because he's as pleasant and lovely as anything to your face. As soon as you turn around, he'll knife you in the back, metaphorically, obviously. He was the youngest hedge fund manager of Deutsche Bank. He's a multi-millionaire. He won't tell you that, and he'll laugh when you tell him that he is. He's got millions stashed in the Cayman Islands or abroad. Massive tax dodger. His brother has a massive property portfolio in London. He's the archetypal Tory. Now, there was no way I was ever going to get elected. Certainly not in the Green Party. You wouldn't get elected in Bromsgrove if you're Labour. He had a 53-54% majority. It's one of the safest seats in the country. But I thought I'll stand against him because it gives me the opportunity to be vocal against him. And just to, you see, I don't know, I'm slightly self-destructive, I suppose. I like shouting at people and telling them how stupid they are. Yeah, I'm very opinionated, sanctimonious, some people say. I don't care. But they have these things called hustings events. It's like question time.
Yeah.
And they're live events. And leading up to an election, you usually have 2 or 3 of these in the constituency. And I thought, that's all I'm there for. I should just sit there. And I rocked up like this, pair of jeans, T-shirt, whatnot. Everyone else all suited and booted. We had UKIP man on the far right, weirdly enough. But he, you know what, weirdly enough, he was a lovely lad. Young 30-something, young lad. And he, you know, there were times I had to lean over and I said to him, are you sure you're in the right party? You know, because he was talking about, you know, we need immigration and all that sort of stuff. And I just kind of leant forward and going, what? You're UKIP, man? And he said, yeah, but we need the right oh, now I get it. We need the right kind of immigration. So what? You know, any you know, have you got a specification of the person that we need? Anyway, so he was there. Labour man was here. I was sat. They stuck me in the middle. Sajid Javid was right next to me, and the Lib Dem man was on the far left. He had a tablet and he was googling all his answers. What a twat. Anyway, we're in a Baptist church, right? Massive church. The place is packed out, and they're all yamping on about nuclear weapons. Yeah, we need nuclear weapons. We have nuclear weapons. We need a nuclear deterrent. And I'm going, and they're all, yeah. The Lib Dem man said, well, this was about renewing Trident, the nuclear weapon, the nuclear missile submarine system and whatnot. And I'm, you know, what was the calculation? 60 billion or something to update that. And I'm going, yeah, and they're all going, yeah, Lib Dem man. No, we don't need 4 submarines. We'll have 3 and all that kind of nonsense. And they're all going, yes, nuclear deterrent. And as soon as Sajid goes, yes, we need nuclear deterrent. All the people, right? They're all going, yes. Labour man, well, you know, it's a sad fact of life that we do need a nuclear. Yes. UKIP, yes. And it came to me and I went, has anyone noticed we're in a church? And they all just looked at me as if I was mental. And I'm going, you know, I'm not a religious person, but I'm pretty sure the Bible says something about, or doesn't say anything about, thou shalt annihilate thine enemy with nuclear weapons. I'm pretty sure it's against the ethos of Christianity to want to kill thousands upon thousands of innocent people. And the whole place went quiet, apart from 3 of me Green Party mates at the back who went, yes! And this is why I stood, because I can't abide hypocrisy. And you've got a bunch of church-going people are all happy. I'm going, and I actually said to Sajid, because he then popped up, he then said, if anyone thinks we don't need a nuclear deterrent, they're sadly deluded. The whole place erupts into applause, just to make a fool out of me. And I'm going, okay, Sajid, I said, you're Prime Minister. Let's imagine you're Prime Minister. I said, it's not out of the question. You could be Prime Minister. It's your finger on the button. You're prepared to press that button and kill thousands of innocent people as a deterrent. And I said, remember, to make it a deterrent, you've got to be prepared to do it first. Because anything else after that is retaliation, and it's not worked as a deterrent. Of course not. You failed your deterrent test. That 60 billion is no longer a deterrent. I said, okay, you've made your point clear. Anyone in here, so I turned on the audience, which is not the thing to do apparently, I was told afterwards. Anyone in here happy to press that button? Nobody put their hand up. So, me, I went bang on the table, what's the point of having it then? And me Green Party mates went, no. Then this old boy sat near the front, puts his hand up. I would. And I went, you'd be happy to press that button, would you, sir? Yes, I would, as a deterrent. And I'm going, so you press the button first? Yes, I would. Are you a Christian, are you? Yes, I am. I come to... You need to read your Bible a bit more, mate. You can't... People can't... You see, I've just had a massive argument with a priest on Facebook. Not a priest, a vicar or something. He votes Conservative. And I said, how do you resolve being a Christian and being a Tory? How does that work? How does that even work? How is that not the biggest oxymoron in the world? No, well, and then I'll give him the old, well, you know, Jesus was a socialist. No, he wasn't. I'll go, fuck off. Oh, and it pisses me off, man. People who are brainwashed and not willing to listen to reason, right? And people will say, I'm exactly that. I won't listen to reason. But if you're telling me your reason is to kill people, your reason is to change the benefit system so that the most vulnerable suffer, if your reason is to deport loads of Jamaicans back to Jamaica who've been here for 50 or 60 years because you decided to change immigration policy, if your reason is, and I could go on, or the Tory scum, and this is why I hate Tories. This is going to sound weird. I hate Tories more than EDL or Britain First, who are blatant racists, yeah? Don't get me wrong. They're blatant racists. There's no disguising them. They're utter filth and a total waste of oxygen. But what Tories do is they try and legitimise that nonsense into conservatism and go, I'm not racist, but... And as soon as you hear that, you know you've got a twat in front of you. And that's why I stood for the Green Party, because the Labour Party wouldn't have me, because it's just too... But what I've done now, I've jacked in the Green Party, because the priority is to destroy the Tories, first and foremost. And if I've got to... You know what? If and Labour, I love Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn is brilliant, and we can see now that Jeremy Corbyn is the way forward and is the future, because the whole establishment are trying to smear him and destroy him. And his own party are made up of these people as well. There was a big speech in the Commons recently, an MP, Labour MP called Ruth Smith. And she's a Labour MP, and she's been getting a lot of, she says, anti-Semitic nastiness. Now, she read out a whole load of stuff that had been tweeted to her. One was anti-Semitic because it criticised her for being Jewish. Now that's anti-Semitic. As soon as you discriminate and you say you're a dirty, filthy Jew, that is anti-Semitic. That is unacceptable. It's like going to a black person and going, yo nigger, right? It's despicable, it's outrageous, and it should not be acceptable at all under any circumstances. But when you look at Ruth Smith's, I've just gone, but when you look at Ruth Smith's record, she receives money from what they call the Israeli state lobby. Now, Zionism is another thing, right? Zionists are people who believe that the state of Israel should exist at the expense of Palestine. Yeah? I don't accept that at all. But all your Zionists are like your Rothschilds, your Goldmans, your Sachs. The banking system is run by an elite. Again, this is my opinion. People will call me a mad conspiracy theorist. But it's run by an elite bunch of Zionists who, you know, the whole Mount Zion in Jerusalem and all that, close to God, all that. It's mental. Which is why I go to Palestine and whatnot. But you've got a lot of these people, they own the finances of the world, and all they do is they pay off people and go, support us. Hitler was a Zionist. You see, Hitler was a Zionist because he wanted to get rid of the Jews and create a state for them to go to. His motives were anti-Semitic, but ultimately he wanted to get rid of the Jews, and if he could do it by going, right, you lot go off to somewhere else, then that's what he'd like to have done. But because he couldn't do that, he went, I'm going to have to kill you instead, hence the Holocaust. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff, guys, that goes on behind the scenes that you don't see. And if you ever read the Daily Mail or the Express, you'll never get to hear about it because they're all owned by Zionists as well.
Okay. So
anyway, so politically, I'm a little bit...
Yeah.
And you'll hear that in some of the papers.
Yeah. So... I forgot what I was going to say, yeah.
Sorry, I went on a bit there, sorry.
Yes, fine, don't worry. So, one more question is that as we're doing a spoken word, so this is our first time doing it. We are doing it about obviously cake and death, which is the theme.
Cake and death, or cake or death.
Cake or death.
Cake or death. Cool.
Cake or death. So, I forgot what to say again. Because I don't know if they want me to do this, but we have attempted to make our own spoken word about it. And I think we got it on us. Have you got it? Have you got
It's in there, I think.
It's in there.
Let's hear it then.
Yeah.
I think.
And
Do you check
I'll be
where it is?
honest with you, it's not good. It's
Right, okay, first of all, never, you're always your own worst critic.
Yeah.
Right, you're always your own worst critic. Read it to us.
You know how you said writing just comes to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Sometimes
about
it
an hour.
Okay.
And we've got like 4 verses.
Okay. Shall I have a look? Shall I have a look?
Yeah. And it gives it any tips that we could use.
Yeah.
It's a piece of cake. Striking a man down. It's easy to... Oh, you little fake. Can you feel me? So it's very. I like you mixed up rhyme pattern as well. It's cool. You can finish one's day in a blink of an eye. Are you ready to die? Now let me say, can you hear me? An overwhelming force too powerful to control, trying to throw us in an empty hole. I think it's time for a divorce. Do you own me? Okay, you're on a really good. Right, it's not shit, right? What you've got here, and I like the repetition of the last line. So that's quite. Yeah, it hooks you in. It's a nice little hook. So you could go off on. You got feel, hear, own. You've got the senses, 5 senses, right? So you got you've done feel, you've done hear. You can talk about see. You can talk about taste. Got to do taste because cake. Yeah. You got do you own an overwhelming force too powerful to control, trying to throw us into an empty hole. I think it's time for a divorce. Do you own me? Yeah. I like what you've done. You've gone for a really interesting rhyming pattern. You've gone for A, B, B, A,
C,
and C at the end by the repetition. Yeah. You can finish one's day in a blink of an eye. Are you ready to die? Now let me say, can you hear me? Was there a reason you went for that structure, or just decided randomly that that's what we're going to do?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
we was thinking because we were like, C's kind of just a random last line, but then we thought,
Yeah,
you
try
know,
and
why
make it
don't
something.
we try and link it back to one another so it makes
Yeah. But we like
kind of sense.
we have to write one more a paragraph.
Well,
Because
we want to try
more.
because we're going to do a video as well.
Yeah.
We're going to try and have about
Mm.
30 seconds of speaking time each, which is quite a lot. Well, it's about 2 minutes.
Well, that's
Sorry.
one person. If you're talking 30
Yeah.
seconds, that's one person's
Yeah.
worth. So you're going to be like talking sort of 3 stanzas each. If there's 3, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
There's 4 of us. but-
There's 4 of you. So yeah, there you go. I mean, 3, 6, 9, 12. 12 was good. I was going to say 9. That's odd. Prime numbers.
Yeah.
I'm a bit
Yeah.
OCD. It's a piece of cake. Striking a man down, so easy to find. Are you real or fake? Can you feel me? Okay, it's a little bit random. I mean, but what's the reasoning behind it? And this bit, I mean, it's a piece of cake striking a man down. So all I'm getting from there is that if you eat too much cake, it's going to kill you.
Well, the intention was it's easy to look at the negative side of someone. It's like easy to strike them down and say, oh, well, you're not good at this. You're not good
Oh
at
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That sort of.
It's a piece of cake. Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. So you're talking as in
It's easy.
it's easy
Yeah.
rather than physical piece of cake. Okay.
Ooh.
Okay. But that's nice, that actually. I haven't even seen that. That's cool. It's a piece of cake striking a man down. So easy to. I mean, again, all I would do is extend these lines because what you've got, the shortness of it is very restrictive. But there's nothing wrong with what you've got here at all. It's a piece of cake, strike a man down, so easy to find, and you're real or fake, and you feel me. You can finish one's day in a blink of an eye. Are you ready to die? Now let me say, can you hear me? Who's asking that last question? Is that death that's talking? Can you feel me? Can you hear me? Do you own me?
Yeah.
So that's death that's saying that. Cool, okay. Overwhelming force, too powerful to control, trying to throw us in an empty hole. It's time to think for a See, I like that one. I like that last stanza more than the others because you've actually extended your saying more. Yeah. It's a piece of cake, strike it. It's a piece of cake. So, yeah, you see, I'd have put a little more in there. So easy to frown, because what that says to me is like you've gone for the rhyme. Yeah, you've gone for the rhyme over the content. But I can see what you're saying. So easy to frown. So it's easy to sort of put one down. It's easier to frown than it is to smile. See, you could have put that in possibly. Striking a man down. It's harder to smile than it is to frown, which it isn't. It's harder to frown than it is to smile, but that then just states the negativity of a person.
Yeah.
That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Took you an hour though.
Yeah, yeah, we're not. This is our first time doing it, and we, especially for me, I find these stuff quite challenging.
Yeah.
But that's the main reason why we chose this, because it's more a challenging thing, and also it'll be a lot more interesting to us. So yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah, no, it's totally getting there. And I think if we're looking for 12 stanzas, again, you see, I'll look at the whole poem. Sometimes I write very linearly, so I'll start at the beginning and I'll just keep going till I think, right, that's the end. But a lot of the time I'll always have the end in mind.
Yeah.
And go, where am I going with this
Yeah.
kind of thing. So what you've done here is you've already determined what your ending of each stanza is going to be. It's going to be a question, and can you feel me, hear me, do you own me? Think of all your other potential endings. So, can you taste me? Do you taste me? Do you see me? You've done the hear, the feel. Do you see me? Feel. What are the senses? See, hear, smell. Can you smell me? Yeah. But then you've actually opened yourselves up a little bit. You haven't restricted yourself too much by doing that. Do you own me? So you've gone, okay, we can go down the senses thing, or we can go, or ultimately we're going to have to go with a question at the end of each stanza. So think what that question might be in the case of each stanza, and then that'll only give you 4 lines to write in each stanza, because you know what the last line's going to be.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant poem by a poet called John Agard. You might have done it in your GCSEs, called Flag. What's that flapping over in the breeze? It's just a piece of cloth. Yeah, it's just a piece of cloth that brings a nation to its knees. What's that flying over the hill? It's just a piece of cloth that makes a man want to kill or something. It's just a piece of cloth, repetition, bom, 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 bom. So if somebody turns around and says, right, you've got to write 5 more stanzas for that poem, well, you've got the middle line already. So all you have to do is think of the couplets that go with it. So just cut your work down a little bit. So you know, think about those questions. Sounds mechanical, but it's just one way of working it.
Yeah. Okay.
Think what the questions might be. And then you may change, as you're writing, you might go, okay, we'll change that last question. I mean, do you own me? You could have your last one, your final one, do you want me? Could be your last stanza, do you want me? Because it's like, is this cake? Is it death, cake? Cake or death, do you want me? There's the question at the very end. Death's asking, do you want me? Or the cake? I don't know. It's just putting it out there. Yeah. But no, that's good, that is. Nothing wrong with that.
Have you got any things that could speed up our process in making it?
Just what I've said there, think of your questions that you're going to finish off each stanza. It may inform that stanza. It's a piece of cake. I like the way you see, that's a great play on words. I was thinking literally and you're thinking figuratively, which is great. Love stuff like that.
Well done, James. You caught with that one.
Yeah, it's a piece of cake. Striking a man down, so easy to find. Are you real or fake? Yeah. Cool.
There was another thing that we wanted to ask you, because I don't know if we're still gonna do it though. We were planning on doing 2 poems.
Mm.
One possibly, which was one was this one.
Yeah.
And another one was. Yeah. Another one was we were wondering if you could help us with the second poem.
Yeah.
If you'd like to do a piece on it.
Yeah.
On the theme cake or death.
And then we can put like the musical stuff to it,
Okay.
if you wouldn't mind.
If
Yeah.
If you're up for it. But
Let's write that down so I don't forget. Cake or death?
just try to like, so it will give us like 2 contrasting things.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, and Dave said it would be good to have 2 as well.
Cool, no problem at all.
Kind of do it like a very small EP then.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Let's have a little look. See, this is me scribbling writing book.
So it'd be like good to see it from like a different perspective.
Cake or death?
Stop it now anyway.
Okay. Well, I'm meeting a mate of mine in a bit who's a wicked poet as well. I might even get him to do a bit and go, Carl, I mean, half hour, cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Because an EP, you want 3 tracks on an
Yeah.
EP, don't you,
Mhm.
really, at
Kind
least. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Carl lives in Birmingham as well. He's a brilliant poet. He's, again, in fact, what might be cool, I mean, he's studying sociology at Birmingham Uni at the moment, doing a degree in sociology. Degree or masters, I can't remember. But he's a prose type poet,
Yeah.
so he's quite different to me. So it might be interesting. Again, totally up to you. I'm going to have a word with him and say, cake or death, Carl? Or whatever it says to you, write a little piece. How long do you want it? About
As long as
a
you
minute,
want.
2 minutes?
Yeah,
Shall we say
minute, couple minutes?
2 to 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Fine?
Well, 1 to 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, that.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, normally you're kind of looking at about 400 words, about 2.5 minutes,
Yeah.
something like that. So 3 to 4.
Yeah,
words,
that's fine, that's
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, okay. And I'll have a word with Carl, and because he lives in Brooklyn, you're going to record it and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. We'll
Yeah,
record
yeah.
it.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So, yeah, he can easily walk over here and record that. I'll meet him in the rec in about 10 minutes. So, but yeah, no problem at all.
Well, yeah, thank you for coming.
Absolute pleasure.
It's been quite good for an
Yeah,
interview.
and it'd be interesting. Let me know what you think of that. Again,
Yeah, we
I'm
will.
a bit old school.